Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I tell you, many kings and prophets have desired to see what you see, and have not seen it. To hear what you hear, and have not heard it. I thank you, Father, for hiding these things from the learned and the wise, and revealing them to the innocent and the simple.
The French Defense Ministry says France used cruise missiles for the first time against the Islamic State during strikes in Iraq on Tuesday. Scalp long-range missiles were launched from French fighter jets based in the United Arab Emirates and in Jordan. The launches came as part of a bombing raid that targeted a command center, training sites, and a logistics depot in western Iraq on the border with Syria. French media say the missiles were used for the first time in Libya in 2011, and they cost about 850,000 euros each. France has stepped up strikes on the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq after the terror group claimed responsibility for the shooting and suicide bombings in Paris last month that left 130 people dead.
Russia says Turkey should pay compensation for downing a Russian warplane on the Syrian border last month. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Alexei Meshkov said Moscow wants a guarantee from Ankara that a similar incident will not happen in the future. Turkey has reacted to Meshkov's comments, saying it's impossible to meet Moscow's demands regarding the compensations. Turkey also accused Russia of exaggerating an army threat, which does not exist. Tensions remain high between Russia and Turkey ever since the downing of the Russian bomber in November.
Beijing has issued a red alert for air pollution, the second time in December. Heavy pollution is expected to shroud the Chinese capital from Saturday until Tuesday. A red alert is the most severe in a 4-tier warning system. The compulsory emergency response includes restrictions on vehicles and production at certain factories and a ban on construction work in the open air. Local authorities also advise schools to cancel classes and residents to take precautions. Beijing's first ever red alert was issued on December the 7th for the 3 days following.
A car bomb explosion has rocked the Somali capital, killing 3 people and wounding 8 others. Officials say most of the victims were civilians. They are expecting the death toll to rise. Police say the violence broke out when assailants opened fire on a government official's car. That led to an exchange of gunfire. Soon after, reinforcements arrived at the scene. A bomb exploded in the area Mogadishu, which is packed with hotels and supermarkets. So far, there has been no claim of responsibility, but similar attacks in the past have been blamed on al-Shabaab militants who have been fighting to topple Somalia's Western-backed government.
Police arrested a 19-year-old in Pennsylvania on terror charges. They say Jalil ibn Amir Aziz pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group and used Twitter to spread its propaganda. Federal authorities also recovered a backpack with ammunition. The supplies suggest he might have been plotting an attack. The bag also contained a high-capacity magazine loaded with ammunition, a modified kitchen knife, a thumb drive, a tin filled with medicine, and a face mask similar to those worn by Islamic State militants.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said Thursday that fighters from the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, would, in his words, be annihilated. Turkey's state-run Anadolu news agency has said security forces were in hot pursuit of militants in those towns near the Syrian and Iraqi borders. The towns were placed under curfew on Monday before an assault involving 10,000 police and troops backed by Turkish tanks. A 2-year ceasefire between the PKK and Ankara fell apart in July, shattering peace talks and reviving a decades-long conflict.
Beijing has slammed the U.S. for flying a military jet over a Chinese-built artificial island in the South China Sea. In a statement by China's Defense Ministry, Beijing called Washington's move a serious military provocation. It says such actions render more complex and even militarized conditions in the South China Sea. Last week, a B-52 bomber flew within 2 nautical miles of a Chinese-built artificial island. The U.S. said the bomber mistakenly ran off course and that the Pentagon is investigating the incident. president. The dispute between the U.S. and China over the islands has heated up in recent months. Washington believes the construction of the Sandy Islands is part of Beijing's efforts to militarize international waters.
There are now more than 20 million refugees in the world, and Europe is facing its worst refugee crisis since World War II. Almost 1 million refugees have flooded into Europe this year, 5 times the number last year. Nearly half of them are from Syria. This year, 706 people died at sea on the treacherous journey to Europe. Meanwhile, Greeks and migrants took to the streets of Athens on Friday, calling on European leaders to stop erecting fences and to open borders for refugees and migrants. Some 1,000 people joined the rally, which was organized by human rights activists, migrants associations, and leftist groups to mark the day.
We want the borders to open. We want a legalization of the migrants so that they can have rights. We want the EU to stop military operations that force people to flee their countries and drown in the seas. All of these are murders and they must be stopped.
We are demonstrating today on December the 18th, which is International Migrants Day, demanding borders to be opened, to bring down the fence in Evros, and to change the policy of closed borders.
Saudi Arabia continues its deadly airstrikes on Yemen, violating a recent UN-brokered ceasefire. The latest Saudi air raids targeted SoulJa province, killing at least 23 people. The attacks indicate that Riyadh has refused to comply with the terms of the ceasefire reached in Switzerland on Tuesday. Elsewhere, forces loyal to the former Yemeni regime seized the city of Hazm, the capital of Jawf province. In response, Yemen's Ansarullah fighters and allied army units fired a missile at a Saudi base in Marib province, killing at least 120 Saudi troops and their mercenaries. Earlier, Yemenis fired ballistic missiles at a Saudi military installation in the Najran region inside the kingdom. More than 7,300 people, mostly civilians, have been killed in Saudi Arabia's onslaught against Yemen since March the 26th.
Winter doesn't officially begin until Tuesday, but winter weather is already a problem on both sides of the country. Heavy rain is falling along much of the Pacific coast, causing mudslides as far south as the Hollywood Hills. And as Marley Hall reports, snow is finally falling in parts of the Northeast where they've been waiting for it.
Nearly 2 feet of lake-effect snow blanketed upstate New York. In the town of Constableville, 24 inches and counting. In Buffalo, a city known for snow, the wait for winter is over. The area hasn't seen measurable snowfall this late in the season for more than 100 years. The National Weather Service says up to a foot of snow could fall there before the weekend is over.
I can't feel my toes.
In northwestern Washington state, the snow took many by surprise, including the State Patrol.
We just have a lot of snow out here on the roads and we have to turn everybody around.
Bad news for skiers stuck behind road closures trying to get to the slopes, and cause for celebration for those who made it.
It's great. Yeah, it's really nice.
But in Florence, Oregon, landslides turned deadly. A 70-year-old woman was killed Friday when a flood of dirt, trees, and debris hit her home.
2/3 of the residents have gone down the ravine. They're evacuating.
In nearby Newport, landslides damaged several more homes after a hillside gave way. Fire Chief Robert Murphy says crews rushed to evacuate residents.
This is one of the more significant ones that we've had in Newport that I can remember.
Rain and snow could cause delays for Christmas travelers both on the roads and in the air, including both coasts. But for places in the Northeast, temperatures will return to the 60s, and it could be one of the warmest Christmases on record.
After a year plagued by terrorism, in his final scheduled press conference of 2015, President Obama defended his administration's strategy against ISIS, pledging to defeat the terror group.
We're going to do so by systematically squeezing them, cutting off their supply lines, cutting off their financing, taking out their leadership, taking out their forces, taking out their infrastructure.
But he admits the ISIS-inspired lone wolf attacks, including the killing of 14 people in San Bernardino this month, are tough to detect, and the administration is consulting with the tech community to figure out better ways to track suspected terrorists.
We're going to have to recognize that no government is going to have the capacity to read every single person's text or emails or social media.
At least 3 times over the last 2 weeks, the president has tried to reassure anxious Americans that intelligence agencies are on the job, but Americans will need to remain vigilant. The president says he is not giving up on shutting down the detainee facility at Guantanamo Bay, something he called a magnet of jihadi recruitment.
By early next year, we should have reduced that population below 100.
He also thanked Congress for putting partisanship aside and passing a $1 trillion spending bill to keep the government funded for much of 2016.
We've gotten kind of used to last-minute crises and shutdown threats and so forth, and this is a messy process that doesn't satisfy everybody completely, but it's more typical of American democracy.
After the news conference, the president signed the budget bill, and the president commuted the sentences of more than 90 nonviolent drug offenders. He also talked about criminal justice reform in the coming year. He'll spend the next 2 weeks in Hawaii relaxing as much as any president can. Anthony?
Greg Boswell in Washington, thanks.